Okay, so I have been playing with PBR Painter and have been quite impressed with some of the results. So I just wanted to share with you a kind of messing around I've been doing with Edgeware and sort of metallic textures. So without further ado, let's just get straight on. I'm going to start with a cube and let's model it so that it looks a little bit less cube-like, and let's jump into edit mode and going to make it fairly straightforward. I don't want to do anything too complicated because I've got to make UV maps for it as well. So just going to create something that has cavities as well as sort of indents, that sort of thing. And let's put some feet on this. Something like that would be okay. Actually, that's probably a better way of doing that than don't need this extra geometry here. Now, just so you know, it's quite late. I've been messing around for a few hours, but I'm quite pleased with what I came up with. So I'm going to persevere into the darkness, into the late night, while the children are in bed and no one's making any noises, and hopefully I won't be interrupted. So I think that would do. Let's just add a little bit more geometry just to make it a bit more interesting. Okay, that would do. Do you know what? I quite like that. I'm going to do that on both of them. Okay, that will do. I'm not going to add any extra geometry just for this one. Just want to really show you kind of how easy it is to set this up. So firstly, let's create a nice UV map for it. I always end up messing around with the UV maps till I find the right way I like to do it. So just bear with me. See what that looks like. Yep, I think that'll do. Let's do the same on this side. Could have just done mirror, couldn't I? It's late, you'll have to just bear with me. Okay, that'll do. It's not brilliant. Which one's that there? Oh, I know. That's right. So let's just do this. Okay, it's not quite right. Okay, much better. Okay, so there's my UV map. Let me just save what I've got. Let's save this somewhere to do with PBR. PBR test 3, I think this one is. And without further ado, let's get straight on to the actual painting. So we're going to add a bronze texture to start off with, so I'm going new, set up material for PBR Painter, no backups because I've got no real surfaces on there. Click my first add layer, let's call this bronze base. 2K. Okay, let's add some, and the first one is going to be like a bronzy colour, and we're going to need the colour, the metalness, the normal and the roughness. Import those, and we'll just fill that straight away, and that already looks quite nice. It's a bit big, so we'll use the texture mapping options to scale it so it's a bit more detailed, and that looks pretty good. And from here we're going to add a just a bit of grunge to it, nothing too major, but we want the grunge to kind of be in the dark spots, so we will add a new layer, call this grunge layer. Okay, and we will add another texture. I think this one's kind of okay. I'm going to add all of these just in case I need them. I don't think I will. And once again, fill that, scale them, so we've kind of got this quite rough metallic texture on top of it. So we need to just kind of limit this to the various areas in here. I think also could do with maybe darkening. Darkening it a little bit. We'll leave everything else as it is. And so now we need a mask just to allow it to show through in the various parts where we want it to show through. And so we will use a preset texture called grunge, and for this one we need to be on cycles, and we need to be on the actual renderer, and let's just jump back to this and isolate it so we can see it on the mesh itself. And that's exactly what we're looking for, just some nice grunge. We probably don't want it to be quite so sharp on the edges. So what we will do is just rein it in a little bit. Okay, well, we can rein it in afterwards. Just for the time being, actually, let's just leave it like it is, because I quite like that. It's basically using the ambient occlusion by the looks of it. So to use that in Eevee, we have to bake that down, or merge that. We'll do that at 2K. You see it's just baking here. And you can probably see it actually coming through, and it looks quite nice. And we don't actually need to use cycles anymore. Okay, it's not showing through a great deal. So let's go to that grunge layer, and there's a couple of things that make it show through. The mask multiplier seems to be the main thing that works, and of course pulling the various mask areas, black and white points, closer together. If I preview that here, you can see how that actually works. And I like that. I think I'm quite happy with that. So it's really just in the kind of cavity areas that shows, but I'd actually quite like it to be a bit darker in those cavity areas than we've currently got it. So what I'm going to do actually on that particular one is use an actual ambient occlusion mask to try and hide, to bring a bit more darkness to this bit here. So it's, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually add another layer and do that. So AO extra 2K, and we'll just do a base color constant black, and let's just fill that, and then add a new mask, and we'll actually make this an ambient occlusion mask. Need to use cycles again. Let's preview it on the mask. Over to cycles, and it's very similar to the one we've just done, but no grunge, just ambient occlusion. Okay, let's try that. Let's bake that mask. okay. It's funny why that doesn't. Oh, it's not finished yet. There we go. It turns it off in PBR Painter. Turns the isolated mask off, which I'm just going to put back on so we can see it. And it's going to pull that in a little bit, so base color, multiplier, there we go. So it's created those kind of dark spots that I wanted to bring out. Let's just put metallic on, and let's put it down to 0. Not sure if that makes any difference. No. No, it's not making enough difference to leave it on. So the last thing we need, which I think will be the final piece de la resistance, I like that saying, is the Edgeware. And this is quite tricky to get right, because what happens with the blender edge detector is it not only detects the edges, the kind of the external edges, but the cavity edges as well, if you like, and the reverse. So we can play and kind of fudge it. I'd like to say fudge it. Well, let's fudge it. So let's do a new layer, and let's call this Edgeware. Okay, and let's just make this base color white, constant white, and let's fill it. So we've kept everything in terms of the surfaces, it's just the color. It's very bright at the moment. Can't get any whiter than white. So we want to have this, just a bit of noise on the edges, on all the edges here really. And so to do that, let's add a mask, and let's start with a what am I thinking? Geometric, that's it. And this is going to be cycles again. Could do the shortcut. And so let's tighten this up. This is on curvature simple at the moment, so I'm just going to go back to the bevel one, which is pretty good as it is. So the only thing I don't want ideally are these ones on the inside. I'd like to keep all the outside ones. A bit of the inside ones will probably be okay, but ideally we'd like to lose as much of those as possible. So we'll leave that mask, and then we'll create another mask to hide the first mask, or hide some of it. And to do that, we'll go back to our Ambient Occlusion one and preview this one, and we'll flip those colours so the black is in the middle, black is in the cavities, and then we will take the blend factor right up and we'll multiply it, and that is reducing the amount of white on the inside here. So with a bit of playing we can kind of lose most of those internal ones. We've still got a bit going on, but it's a lot less than it was. I think we can probably live with that little bit. In fact, let's just live with it a bit more. Okay, so that's pretty good. So to finish off, we'll just merge visible again. wait for that to bake. And now that's done, we need to create another mask just to break this one up. Before I do that, let's just save what I've got. So this one here, we'll just do the usual procedural mask, preview on selected mesh, and want to make this quite noisy. A bit smaller, a bit more detail, a bit of roughness. There we go. And let's preview them together, and we should be able to leave us with just a little bit of an edge. There you go. I like it. I do. I like that. So we've got a fairly decent edge mask there. I think I'm quite pleased with that. And so don't need to be in cycles anymore. And so I should be able to now. Let me just save that in case I lose it and never get back to it. So let's go back to this, wait for it, and there we go. So we've got this quite nice subtle edge breaking up here, and let's put some normal on there as well, and we should be able to link that to the mask. A very slow computer. There we go, and we're starting to get this quite nice broken up Edgeware look. That's not bad, is it? That's not bad for Blender. It's pretty darn good. This PBR Painter, you know, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but for $24, I know I'm making tutorials, videos, and that's how excited I am by it. So there you go. So, and what's so nice, of course, it's so indestructible-ish. So this mask here, if I wanted a bit more of it, we can just take it up or take it down. There we go. Do you know what? I'm not going to do anything else to that. I think that looks bloody good as it is. So I'm going to sign off with that. But the final thing, of course, as always, is that you can just bake these final ones. Where are we? So finally, I can bake all of these to the separate maps. It's a very quick process, and who am I kidding? Should we just do it? Let's just do it. Save. I'm going to save it as something else. Test 3 baked. And then the final thing we do here is bake, and I'm going to save the textures externally, save them as a JPEG. We'll do 4K. No, what's the point? Everything else is, yeah, let's just do 4K. And let's put them in here again. Concept. It's going to be called Cube, so excuse the lack of changing the name. And I think that's it. I'm always a little bit nervous when I press this button, but go OK. And now it just takes its time to make the various separate maps, the color, the metallic, the diffuse and the normal. Okay, and it's finished. So now that's all done, we can go into our node editor. Let's make a new material. Let's call this cube, and let's assign that. So now I have a fresh principled shader ready to go. Control and Shift T, which is the principled texture setup. Cube albedo, metallic, normal and roughness. Ta-da! And there they are. That's how easy it is to set up. Let's just take the normal strength up a tad. Just to emphasize the ridge detail. Okay, so that's it. So I encourage you, everyone who hasn't got PBR Painter yet, to go and get it. $24. It's got to be worth it. It's a steal at half the price. I never quite understood that saying, but there you go. So thank you for bearing with me, and I'm just showing off PBR Painter and how pleased I am with it, and how pleased I am that I can actually produce something with it that works. So once again, thanks for taking the time to listen to me and follow this explanation stroke tutorial, and I look forward to doing another one soon. So take care and God bless.